Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Lauren here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Turgai, and he's selling his SaaS business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So welcome to the show, Turgai. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Well, it's wonderful to have you on the show, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about your business. But before we dive in, I'm going to go over a brief summary of the business. This is a SaaS business created in December 2011 in the digital media niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $28,175, and it makes an average of $17,063 per month in net profit. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 58078 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. The assets included in the sale are a domain and all site content and files, a Shopify app, a Magento extension, a WooCommerce plugin, employee contacts, a licensing agreement, Facebook and Twitter social media accounts, an email list with roughly 5,000 subscribers, and the software code. So now that we know more about the business, let's hear from the seller. Turgai, can you tell us a little bit about your background in building and running online businesses?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been building and running online businesses for 2 decades now. And I started in e-commerce, and then over time I moved towards the SaaS space with this business, and I've been doing that for the last 10 years. Yeah, I've been mostly on a software side, but obviously, like all founders, kind of a jack of all trades.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. And 2 decades of experience is quite a lot. What made you decide to start this SaaS business in particular?
So a while ago, I was actually in between startups and I was doing some contract work as a software developer. And I came across this opportunity through a customer I had where they wanted to get into the digital media space and they wanted a certain solution that wasn't really built as a SaaS, but it was more like an enterprise package you had to buy, pay a lot of money, and deploy on your own servers. And I saw this as kind of an opportunity because we were getting a lot of requests for something like this from similar customers. So that's why I thought it would be a really good solution as a SaaS solution. So that's how this business came to be. It was really born out of actual requests. So it was kind of pre-sold before I even built it. I was able to dangle the idea in front of some prospects and saw a lot of positives. So that's how the idea came up.
Yeah, fantastic. Always great to be able to fill a need like that. You've had this business for almost 10 years now. What are the reasons that you're selling it now?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not really that interested in the space anymore because there are some other opportunities that are more exciting to me. Even though it's a booming and growing sector, I just have my interests elsewhere. But also I want to be able to invest in all those other things. And that's, easier to do when you kind of have an exit and have more liquidity. So those are the 2 main reasons.
Certainly, yeah. And it's always exciting to be able to move on to new and exciting things. You've had quite a long journey with this business. Is there anything that you learned along the way that was really successful that you would apply to any future sites or businesses that you would work on?
Yeah, definitely. The number one thing is, partnerships, and what I kind of call, and a lot of people I see call partnership marketing, maybe partnering with, people who complete your product or companies that complete your product. So for instance, Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, these extensions or plugins that we developed over the years, they've been really good lead generators because they complement our product so well. And when they sell product, they win. When we sell product, we win. So we kind of help each other sell each other's products. So that has been very successful. I really like that approach. Instead of trying to build everything yourself, just partner with other companies that complement you. And then obviously, second is like the biggest success this business has had with marketing has been through content marketing. A lot of blogging and, doing some, guest posts here and there, trying to get some links, to build also authority for SEO and things like that. Like those have been really successful. So content has been all these years, it's been the main driver of the growth of the business. And, all of our customers are inbound. We don't really have any outbound presence.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I know we advocate for content marketing quite a lot as well. It's definitely a very powerful tool. On the flip side of the coin, I'm sure there were some things that didn't quite go according to plan. Was there anything that you would do differently if you had to start the business a second time around?
Yeah, I would probably not reinvest so much into like trying the outbound approach, mainly because I'm not the person to do that or to oversee that. And I think it also takes like a different level of operations, trying to do direct sales. I think it's still a very good approach for a product like this because it really talks to mid-market and enterprise customers well as a product. But, having a sales team and having, those managed and set up the right way, that's a completely different ball game that I just have no experience with. So, kind of sunk some money into that and didn't really see much success. And I can't really think of anything else in terms of failures. But yeah, I would also, this is funny because like everybody talks about this. Don't build anything that your customers don't want. But even after 10 years of doing this, I'm guilty of doing that sometimes. Building something out of a hunch or, saying, maybe if we add this feature, it will be successful. But no, like definitely need to talk to customers, ask them. And even then, they don't know. So, like, do it an MVP. Don't put too much money and time into feature development without knowing it's going to work. So, it's kind of like doing another startup from the beginning. Those kind of two things are what stand out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so tempting to sort of fiddle with it and try and, be the first to come up with things. But as you say, you got to get that customer feedback. You mentioned that you get a lot of success from content marketing. Can you talk to me, what do you do currently in terms of marketing and where does the majority of your traffic come from?
Yeah, so a big majority of our traffic comes from Google and, other search engines. And by far, it's the biggest traffic source. And currently, we put out one blog post a month. We used to do a little more, shorter pieces. We've been trying different approaches, but lately we've been doing one really juicy piece of content per month, and that seems to be working well. We kind of gear that towards, people who want to get into the space, who want to have success in the space, trying to help them with succeeding in using our product, but also doing the thing that our product enables them. So it's kind of like educational side. We don't call it the blog anymore. We call it the learn section of the website. So it's really trying to educate customers so that we can kind of keep them around longer, but also help them be more successful so they have more of a reason to keep using us. So that's been, at the core of the content strategy. And I don't think it's very original or anything, but it's been pretty successful. It's been working well in driving traffic and just ranking us. So people come into those blog posts a lot and they move on to the website and check it out and see if it works for them. And then direct search too. Like a lot of people search for directly what we want or what we do. Because of that, we've been able to kind of rank pretty well with the search engines as well for some of the keywords. So SEO is definitely a very important game. And I think we've done a pretty good job with that too.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. So Turgai, if you were to keep the business, what are some of the ways that you would try and grow it further?
Well, I would definitely diversify like our core offerings and focus a little more on open source software going forward than trying to, keep going with enterprise partnerships on some fronts. So building out mobile apps, like that's, it has been a barrier to us because of the costs involved. It's a bootstrap business. It's just me and a small team I have. And, it's really hard to kind of take money out and reinvest it into a big development project for mobile because mobile's so expensive. But I think it is a very important step in providing better UX for our customers. And then I would also, provided we kept seeing growth and we had more and more money, again, this time kind of going into the sales side of things, but try to do it with people who know this stuff better than me, who are really good at, the sales and business development side of things.
Yeah, those certainly sound like great growth opportunities. Certainly a lot of untapped potential there. So in terms of your role in the business, can you walk me through how many hours per week you spend on the business and what sort of tasks take up your time?
Yeah, so on average, I spend anywhere from 1 to 3, 4 hours a week. So it changes depending on, if there's like big issue that had to be escalated to me. That doesn't happen very often. Hasn't happened in the last 3 months, I think. So generally it's like 1 hour a week. I just go through the metrics, make sure, all the bills are paid, we're getting paid, keeping an eye on the analytics and the metrics and making sure everything's going well. Otherwise, my small team, they're able to handle all the day-to-day tasks right now. And it doesn't take me much time because of that.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds pretty well streamlined there. You mentioned you have a small team. How many people do you have on your team at the moment, and what sort of roles do they play?
So I have 3 core team members aside from myself. 2 of them are more, support customer success side of things. And one of them is a full stack developer who helps me keep the product maintained and also helps me with adding the features. And all these team members are happy to stay on in the long term. They've been with me for at least a year, all of them. Some of them have been around for 3 years. So, and then we have, a lot of contractors that we work with, like content writing, that's outsourced as well to a writer in the US. And then, we've worked with her for 8 years, I think. And we have a lot of people that we work with as well, on and off as we need. So it's a pretty solid team, but 3 of them, they make up the core of the team.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think, as you said, if they are willing to carry on with the new buyer, they'll be able to provide insights into the business and help the buyer out. But over and above that, for someone who's not familiar with this particular business model or the type of product that you sell, what skills or requirement would you say are needed to run this business successfully?
I would definitely say that, your general SaaS operating skills. So knowing a little bit about, infrastructure. Sure, you don't have to go in and change the code yourself or anything, as long as you have a developer, and we have one on the team. But, just enough to run a SaaS business. It's not a super complicated SaaS business. It does have a few moving parts like most SaaS businesses, but I wouldn't categorize it as a super complex one. It basically just deals with digital media moving from here to there. But on the business side, I would definitely think marketing skills would be a big plus to tap into the potential for growth, because I know there's a lot of potential for someone like that.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Absolutely. On the flip side of the coin, what would you say are the biggest risks associated with the business that a buyer should be aware of?
I think the biggest risk, I don't see huge risks. I've always thought, when I started this business, my goal was to say, okay, this can get me out of the contracting or full-time job world, which I've never had to do. And it'll go for 3 years, 4 years, then I'll start something else and it'll probably be defunct or out of fashion. But that hasn't happened. It's been 10 years now. Even I'm surprised it's still going. So it's not a super risky business because it's pretty niche. And, big players, I don't think they're very interested in coming directly into it. And it's hard for smaller players to kind of penetrate to the level that we've been able to over all these years. We have an early starter's advantage on that. So the risk will obviously be, again, like you could go out of fashion, the technology something much better comes along and it kind of blindsides you. But I don't think that's very likely because we've been keeping an eye on all the emerging technologies. And that's why I'm saying like focusing on open source is important because open source is always a big threat to any SaaS business if you don't work with it. That's been a solid belief of mine the last few years. So that's why I've been moving towards that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, I mean, especially in the SaaS world, for a product to thrive for 10 years is really unusual. So you've certainly done very well there. How much support are you willing to offer the new buyer to help ease the transition of the sale?
I'm happy to do, some calls here and there. I think we put some numbers in the listing itself, but obviously I want to move on, but I'm happy to stay on for a little bit as an advisor and keep answering questions, through email, and we can do like calls on a weekly basis or whatever. As long as there's a cutoff date on everything, it's not like a forever permanent thing, then I'm fine with, talking about different structures.
Wonderful. And when it comes time to actually negotiate the sale, would you be open to entertaining something like an earnout?
Earnouts really, I see a lot of different earnouts out there. And the ones that I'm not interested in are the ones that are tied to the growth of the company. So that, if it hits this milestone, I get paid. If it doesn't, I don't. That doesn't interest me at all. So mainly because I don't know how well the new buyer is going to do with growth. Like there's no way I can know that. And then the second thing is if it's an earnout based on time, that's obviously a lot more reasonable as long as the time frames are shorter and the upfront payments aren't too low. It's like a majority of the payments upfront, and then there's a certain period, and then after that, the rest gets paid when the transition's done to ensure I'm participating in that as well. That's totally fine.
So would you be willing to commit to a non-compete agreement?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to that as long as it's, specific to the niche or specific to the industry itself. I'm not too interested in going back into this industry anytime in the short term, so I'm totally fine with that.
Okay, wonderful. And do you have any advice for our listeners that you wish you knew when you first started out in the SaaS industry?
I'm really happy I didn't fundraise at all, even though it was kind of painful growing through reinvesting profits. I don't know if this is relevant, but I've had a lot of founder friends who started around the same time or, close to it. And I've seen a lot of them fundraise and I've seen how unhappy they are. I haven't seen any founder that's happy after they've fundraised, unfortunately, which is kind of sad. I know in some products you have to fundraise. That's just the reality of it. But if you can avoid it as long as possible, at least, then you have more and more bargaining power and it's easier to kind of get a better deal if you have to do it. Other than that, automation, delegation, super important. It's possible to a really high extent with SaaS businesses. You just need to trust your team to do a good job and just hold them accountable on results. And remote work has been really good. Even before COVID, we were always a fully remote team for the last decade. So COVID was just, business as usual. So definitely recommend just don't get a fancy office, move to a boring, quiet town and pay very cheap rent and, just reverse fundraise yourself. And I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, certainly. I like that concept, reverse fundraise yourself. Yeah, and remote work definitely helps with that, as you say. So the last question of the interview, and possibly the most important one, is if you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, it is stable. So it's a stable asset that's generating cash flow. And, everybody's going to see the P&Ls, and it has been very good in terms of that. It's just a very big asset for me to hold on to. Whereas like for a bigger, someone with a portfolio much bigger than mine with a lot more equity, like it makes a lot of sense to just hold as an asset even. But beyond that, if you wanted to grow it, there's a lot of room for growth. Like if you want to invest a little time and money into it, there's a lot of different ways you can make this thing grow. And then you can do a little bit of both, just hold it for a while and then invest and grow it. And that's what I've been doing it in spurts. So But the industry it's in is growing really fast too. That's always an advantage. That wind kind of carries you forward too. So, as a buyer, I'm on the buyer side of Empire Flippers as well. And that's one of the main things I look at. Is it a stable asset that's generating cash flow in the long term? And does it also have some growth potential? So I think from that perspective, if it wasn't so big for me, it wasn't such a big portion of my equity, I would just hold it. But just holding it doesn't make sense for me, but it would for a bigger portfolio company probably.
Yeah, certainly. And as you say, there's definitely a lot of potential there. So I think buyers are going to be very interested in this business. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we end the interview?
No, I don't think I said everything I wanted to say.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for your time, Sergei. It's been fantastic talking to you and learning more about your business.
Thanks, Lauren. Really appreciate it and enjoyed this.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 58078. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.